think you're special because you're human? You're just raw meat for my demons to use. They're not building a better human. They're building a more powerful demon.
The Collector. What are his pros and cons? Do I think he's worth that price tag? And at the end of the day, what would I give him on a scale from 1 to 10? I'll be answering all of that and more in today's review video of The Collector from Spirit Halloween. So once again, in today's review video, I have a sheet of paper with me to keep my pros and cons organized, and I'll try to make this one quick. For pros, first of all, before I get into it, I do first just want to shout out my Instagram at HTJ_Halloween if you want to see more content from me. Over there, I post behind the scenes stuff, props when I buy them, what to expect with video schedules, so link will be down in the description for that. But anyways, moving on. Pros for the Collector is that he is big. That's my number one pro for him. If he was small, he would just not even be in my top 10 because that is pretty much the seller for this guy. Very similar to the seller for Crouchy. It's just that they're both very large. And after setting him up in my basement, it almost seems like I was deceived at the flagship store and that they actually happen to be the same size because they are both 7 feet. So I guess it would make sense. And he is kind of crouching down, so, he has bigger proportions. But, for some reason in store, Crouchy seemed much bigger, so I guess we'll see if maybe he won't fit in here. But either way, after seeing him again in person in the basement, it really surprised me how large this guy really is. And he really towers over you, gives that huge demon effect. And that is probably the biggest pro of him, is just that he is a very large animatronic, so it definitely will make him stand out at any Halloween house display. The other thing I was going to say is that he has kind of some pretty decent face detail. In these pictures, it doesn't really do it much justice, but he actually has a lot of cracks and crevices and brown speckles and stuff all over the face that when you see it in person, the skull is actually pretty heavily detailed and looks pretty cool. Another big pro for me is the bag that he is holding. I'm really glad they added that bag. Obviously, it's really the only thing that makes him not just a Reaper that doesn't have anything else going for him. So, they kind of had to do something like that, but I really, really liked the bag. And when I saw the one at flagship, I didn't think the motion in it was very good, but after seeing it again in person and the one that I have purchased, I don't know if the one at flagship wasn't working well or if I just couldn't see it as well, but the motion actually is pretty noticeable. There's something like wiggling around in there. It's a very unique motion. There's some sort of motor in there that you don't have to set up or see, but it's just like these little, plastic balls that spin around in there and make it look like it's wiggling around, and it's kind of cool because it makes it look like there could be like souls in there or something rather than having the typical like shaking bag that has a person in it. It's unique and different, and I definitely really, really like it. Will it be that noticeable when he's in the haunted house and it's dark? Probably not, but it's definitely a cool add to his animation. And really the last thing that is a pro for this guy is that he has lots of animation in general. He just has lots of different animations. You have the side-to-side motion along with mouth movement that for mine isn't that great, but you can see like some people's that you might get, it is supposed to look like this. So I don't know if I could be able to fix mine, but it is supposed to look like that. So most of the time when you get him, he is gonna have great mouth movement. Also the eyes light up red, which is the perfect color for any sort of skull prop. And he has the bag motion. So like 4 different major things going on, obviously along with the audio. So that is just something to take into account, that for this guy, he really has a lot of movement. And he's also a very large prop, for being a very large prop, versus something like Crouchy, which only has the side-to-side movement. So definitely have to take that into account. Now, going into like in between the pros and the cons, the phrases and the audio is kind of in the middle for me. I don't really have a problem with it because I think the thing that really makes him look cool at any display is just how large he is, and he's just a really big Reaper dude. You can also kind of fulfill that role with the big 10-foot towering Reaper that they have, even more so with that guy. But the phrases, there's like 4 of them, which is quite a few. Actually, there might be 5 now. I think there's 4. Only like 3 of them are on the website, and then there's like another extra one that is actually kind of cool. They're kind of, they're a little bit comedic. It's not meant to be super scary. It's cool that there is quite a few phrases and not just like 2, like there are in some props. So I definitely like that he has like the about a lot of different phrases that he's going to rotate through. I think the voice acting is good. It's just some of the phrases are a bit corny, but again, I honestly don't think they were going for scary. I think they were going for a little bit funny. So I don't really have a problem with them, but I wouldn't say they're a pro or a con. The cons are, it is a bit cartoonish, and it's also just not the most unique look. Now, obviously, I did just say that the detail in the face was a pro, and it is, but especially in these photos, he kind of looks like a cartoon skeleton. And so, you know, it's not the creepiest, unique Reaper face that we've ever seen. It's just kind of this pretty typical foam skull outline. In person, I think it's a lot more impressive just because it's how big it is and the detail looks a lot more realistic. But still, you know, he's not the scariest skeleton. He's pretty cartoon looking, and it's also obviously not a very unique look. I mean, it's just a big skeleton Reaper with a black cloak. So if you're looking for something unique and different, there's a lot of other ones to get this year that will fit that role. And really with his clothing, it's just a lot of gray and black. And I don't, you know, I can't really complain because what more could they really do with it? You know, I don't really know. But I just have to say that because it is kind of noticeable that he's such a huge prop, and he really is just majority black clothing and gray creepy cloth, just tons of aggravating creepy cloth to deal with. I like the addition of the rope. I guess that would add that to a pro. It kind of, you know, coincides with the burlap bag, but you don't really see much of his hands. I mean, you don't really see much of like a skeleton arm. You just see the hands and the face, and that's all the skeleton stuff that you get. You know, maybe it would have been cool if he had some really big skeleton feet or something like that, or, you know, maybe a rib cage showing, but it is just kind of a lot of black and gray going on. So, you know, kind of a boring outfit, but that is what it is. And that's pretty much it for the pros and the cons. His price is $250, $249.99. And what's interesting about this one is that in the span of the past, you know, month or so, however long this thing has been released, its price has already changed. So sometimes Spirit changes the prices later down the line in October, I guess just to kind of get those sales really through the roof at the very end of the season. I think that happened with a couple last year, like Looming Straw Man, maybe Pumpkin Patch Prowler, were marked down, but this guy has been marked down as early as August. And I think it might be because the sales were much lower than they expected, because he's not one of those that you see him immediately and he has this huge wow factor. You really have to see him in person to appreciate him. So the sales might have been low. I mean, I don't know. I can't speak from a business perspective why it was lowered, but it's a good thing as far as the price, because it went from $300 to $250. Yes, it is expensive. If you're on a tight budget and you want to get a lot of props this year, probably don't want to add this one to your list. However, it's kind of worth it if you compare it to one like Crouchy, who has stuck at $300, $299.99. He has a lot more motion going on for him. The side to side, the mouth, the eyes lighting up, the bag moving, and 4 different phrases that he rotates through, versus Crouchy, who only has side to side motion and nothing else, no movement or any other animation other than the audio, which is just a simple laugh. So if you take that into account, and obviously I'll get into Crouchy later when I bring him onto the channel as far as what I think kind of, you know, makes it up for him. But if you take that into account, I mean, this guy does have more going for him. It just depends on which one you think looks better, which one you think fits into your theming and whatever you're doing for Halloween. But I feel like if you're not looking to like do something in particular, but you do want like one of the bigger props, I mean, the Collector is not a bad choice between him and Crouchy, because he does have a lot more animation, and he is at a lower price tag at this moment. And, you know, I know people would say, well, the price probably could be lowered, but he also is really, really large. So could you ever see Spirit putting something this large at under $200? Absolutely not. So, you know, I think $250 is fair. $300 I would have said overpriced, but luckily they have lowered it. But $200 is kind of the standard at this point, so I could never see them putting one this big at $200. So, you know, $250 I would say makes perfect sense. So anyways, on a scale from 1 to 10, I would give the Collector a 6 out of 10. A very solid 6 out of 10. Even though he's one of the lower ones on my list this year, he really is not half bad. He's still one that I highly recommend, and I still think he is super duper creepy. And if you are a skeleton, a Reaper fan, a Skull fan, whatever the heck, then this is perfect for you. And he would look awesome in any display, even if he was the only thing that you had out, because he is so large, so he really draws in that attention, and that makes that price all the more worth it. And yeah, like I said, even though he's low on my list, he also has kind of grown on me after seeing him in person, and that's something you have to take into account with this guy, is that these pictures, they aren't the best. This looks super cartoonish when you see it right there. But in person, I mean, it doesn't seem that bad. I mean, it still kind of has a bit of a scare factor to it. I mean, you know, it's not the scariest one, but kids aren't really going to want to come up to it because it's pretty huge and it's still a creepy skull. So, you know, it's really looks a lot cooler in person, I have to say. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Let me know in the comment section below what you think of the collector for the 2019 season. I think he's a pretty split one within the community as far as you kind of love him or you kind of hate him. But for me, he's kind of smack dab in the middle, and I do recommend him. He is down in the description. There will be a link to Spirit Halloween's website where you can find the collector or anything else that you need for the Halloween season. If you shop on that link, you'll be helping out me and the channel at no extra cost to you. It's just a regular shopping experience. But of course, there will also be an exclusive HTJ Halloween 20% off discount promo code to make those prices a little bit less scary and make this collector even more worth that price tag. Of course, there will also be the link to my Instagram, like I said at the beginning of the video, and lastly, there will be a link to the HTJ Halloween merch shop if you want to check out any HTJ Halloween designs. I would greatly appreciate it. Alright guys, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.